Seeing no one else in the audience, so I'll close public comment. And next thing I'd like to do is give a big thank you to all of the Groseal residents who voted yes on the bike path millage. And thank you to all of our commissioners and everyone else who worked hard to make sure to get the message out. So we do have a good millage to move forward and repair all of the paths and make sure that they last another generation. I also would like to welcome Tom Malvesto to our commission formally on the air. So we look forward to having great discussions and great insights on the direction of our township board. The next item would be our 2016-2017 objectives. So if we can look at the attachment over here, I took our objectives from last year and basically included a status, either achieved, postponed, partially achieved, or not achieved at all. So we can go by these one by one if you like, and we can discuss these. Or if you don't want to go over one by one, we can just give me any of your comments specifically. Is there a preference for the way we go through this? Jane? One by one? Okay. So the first item, from last year was a goal to pass a millage for maintenance of bike path system. I put down that it was achieved. The millage was passed via ballot measure in the November 2016 election.
It was passed by 2/3, right? What was the ratio?
Yeah, 2 to 1 ratio. That's a good point to put in there. And this report will be going to the township board so they can see some of our efforts. The next item was to perform maintenance activities if budget allows. I don't remember any significant maintenance activities from last year. I believe the idea was to keep the remaining money that we had as an emergency fund. So that's what I did put down on here, the status. If there's anything else that we should highlight, please let me know.
I think the last major thing we did was the bridges. Horse Mill, the school path, unless I'm getting years mixed up.
Yeah.
Brian, I think the point you're making is that even though this is a postponed status, we had a little bit of funding left over. We just didn't look for a project to spend it on. We're trying to be fiscally responsible. Mm-hmm. We stretch a dime to a dollar, and that's the mindset you have when you say postponed, but what you're doing is, in my opinion, just being very fiscally responsible.
So maybe I'll actually just put down achieved and say, the budget did not allow. It's pretty.
Yes.
Next item is further refine Groseal's draft bicycle and pedestrian plan. I put down partially achieved because I had made some changes to it, but we still have not presented that to the entire commission over here, and got our opinions on whether or not that this is something the language would be recommended for adoption. So I do not feel comfortable putting that one as achieved. Okay. Next item.
Did you say adoption by us or by the board?
Well, we would recommend adoption to the township board. So it would be something that we could create that, I've put in some, language and tried to capture the spirit of what we've been talking about here on this commission, but there has never been a formal vote on whether or not, to recommend it. So that's what I meant by, I chose my words poorly and say, over here, we'd have to vote for recommending it, and then the township board would have to vote on actually adopting it. In the past, with the recreation master plan updates, a lot of the materials that we have in the draft plan have been moved forward under the recreation master plan. Next item would be, work closer with other commissions on joint documents and programs. Put down partially achieved because, we are starting to have conversations with open space and with the DDA. It's something that, we're moving forward with, and I think that once we're up to our full roster, it'll be something that'll be a lot easier for us to do within the next year. Okay, next item is publish public brochure on biking and hiking on Grosse Ile. And I say, between all the hard work that Jane did and what Bob did for getting the word out about the brochure and soliciting it to other people on island, I think we achieved that one, and there's no argument about that. So, good job, guys.
Thank you. Having this type of brochure.
Next item would be work with other stakeholders on establishment of Iron Bell Trail on Grosse Ile. I put down achieved because we are working with a downriver linked greenways. I have been at a couple meetings where it's been the downriver linked greenways and Wayne County roads as my role in SEMCOG, so that SEMCOG is aware of what we're looking to do. It's something that's ongoing, but as far as establishing communications with other stakeholders, I think we did achieve that. Last one that we have on the list is to continue and enhance and create programs that get people excited about walking and biking on Grosse Ile. Achieved BPAC has worked with the Rotary Club on Glow Roll, Tour de Ile, Barradour, and Lazy Ride. Is there anything else that we should highlight under this last one?
I met with Mike Duker and spoke to him. There isn't a date picked or anything, just opening the door this year for the second annual, close the runway event. We talked about doing them before the cold weather. Last year we so cold, but we also missed out on the opportunity of having golf carts, to transport seniors and handicap out to the event. So we're going to do it in nice warm weather, and the wheels started turning on it.
I mean, what's the name of the event? Or are we just calling it,
It's a
the airport?
runway.
What's that?
The grand reopening of the runway. Now, he mentioned about the golf cart. The reason why we didn't have it is because they closed it for the winter, unless you already said that.
Correct. They had already been taken away for the winter. So
Yeah.
we're going to be doing the event before the carts are taken away. We just need a few to get the handicap and a few other people out to the runway so they can enjoy it. It'd be another good event. We were trying to marry it with possibly a couple other committees or organizations to maybe have a multi-purpose day. Just started.
Yeah, great.
Looks like fun.
So,
Brian, on that, you stated that programs that get people excited, I think that's kind of shortchanging us. The dogs get excited the most when they know they're going to go for a walk. We keep talking about people, but that's a big aspect of the path is to take your dog for a walk.
mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you, but when my dog knows I'm going to take him on the path, he's excited beyond belief. So I think you do an injustice by just saying people.
Duly noted on there. So the language and the bullets themselves is what we had from last year. So we can definitely add our four-legged friends as far as if this is some since we're probably going to continue it, we can include that on our objectives for 2017, 2018.
Maybe we can do the dog run there, work with the animal shelter. We had the dog run over there every year. Maybe we can do it down here. Is that an idea?
Yeah.
Plus, I want to put out there also, if we can, to offer our services for any organization like Rotary with their Glow Roll and Tour de Ile. When we get on board with our other commissioners, we're more than willing to help them with any event that they may see fit for us to help them with.
So now that we've gone through the status of these specific objectives, what I'd like to do is what we've started to do already is come up with our 2017, 2018 objectives. So we can brainstorm this now. We would get a couple highlights, and then maybe after we get off the air, we can flesh it out in a little more detail. I heard dog run. I think the stakeholder one, Bob, that you were talking about, I think that's something that would be good to add to this list. I can wordsmith that one later. But other ones that we want to highlight or things that we should re-emphasize. I personally think that we need to get the non-motorized plan done this year.
I agree.
Yeah. We can use that for a park project. That's the only thing stopping us from that. Completion of the park is the
Well,
motorized plan.
Let's put that on there, completion of the pack.
absolutely. We're working on that now. It should be open soon. I'm hoping by the 1st.
Say something?
I just have a couple. I didn't hear any more about the Downriver Link Greenways. I know we met. But I think now that we have passed our maintenance millage, we should seriously start talking about new construction. We get a lot of feedback from the public. Been collecting years of feedback. So I think we should start thinking about if they would want new construction. And we never really addressed the sign issue either. It's something that we talk about a lot, but I think we should actually take action on it this year.
Okay. Would you, clarify about the sign issue? I know that some.
Sure. I'm sure everybody who rides the paths noticed that there are a lot of confusing signs that shouldn't be there, maybe signs that should be there. One big one that I know Bob has mentioned over and over is at Macomb and Meridian, where you have the stoplight, but then you also have the stop sign. And it's very confusing for bicyclists, motorists, pedestrians, and that's something that I think we need to remedy.
Okay. I'll put another one on there that's, be easier to accomplish, but say, I'd like us to be up at a full roster as far as, interview and, select commissioners.
Brian, I should clarify, I don't expect that new construction would start this year. Probably we need a more concrete objective, and there will be many steps, but that's something we can talk about later.
Yeah, I put down in my notes, begin the conversation, which is, an outgrowth or something going on in tandem with the non-motorized plan. Another one that very similar to that. I'm thinking that, as far as grants, there is the Iron Bell Trail grants that's coming up fairly shortly. In my conversations with Wayne County and the Downriver Link Greenways, we talked about a joint application. It seems like for a lot of the gap filling for the hiking portion of the route, that's going to be better for communities to do those on their own. So, we should entertain the notion of doing a, seeking out grants for whatever construction we might be doing.
And maybe get community feedback. Find out what the community want. Do they want another trail? Do they want maybe in the road? Do they want, I don't know, to find out what the community wants.
Also, if we could
That could be a survey online where we give them a couple different options that have different scenarios. So, and just, obviously we hear very often about East River and West River, which all things being equal, we'd love to get that done yesterday. But with all of the issues surrounding it, if we can present some of that succinctly and say, which projects might be more likely to have grant sources so they cost less versus, which ones are the top of, a huge wish list, maybe we can get a little bit more of a definitive answer on which way to go.
also, if we could do possibly when we get some more people on board, a maintenance survey, because we have some things that need to be addressed on the path, especially between, and I'm on it constantly, between Church and Horse Mill. Needs to be surveyed to see just what we have to do to continue protecting this gem we have here. We don't want it to deteriorate anymore. Whether we have to seal coat it, the weeds are getting in between. We've lost probably a foot of path, the width of it, just from it growing over. So once we get a few more people on board, maybe we can do some type of maintenance survey to use this money that was given to us by the community to keep this maintained.
So would you say more of a formalization of the maintenance plan? Because we have in the back of our head the routine, like what we're planning to do, but have something a little bit more tangible that we can share with the township, with the DPS and others that might actually be implementing our maintenance, but also something that folks could see online and say, hey, again, go back to this is what you're actually getting for your tax dollars.
Good idea. Absolutely.
Also on the maintenance, I think that we need to encourage the public to address any issues they have on the path that would require immediate attention. Something that might cause an emergency or a possible injury, like foliage growing in, a crack in the path, and anything that you would consider something important enough to have done immediately, to contact the township and let them know, and so they can address it immediately. We don't need to have somebody hurt because we haven't addressed an issue on the path. So I think that's more of an immediate need, and I encourage the public to get involved when they see things and to contact us via one of the medias or the township and give us the opportunity to make repairs or change or rectify the problem. So please do that. Please don't hesitate.
I want to put down continue outreach or solicitation of about safety concerns, real safety concerns.
Would we use our email? Don't we have a email address for BPAC?
Yes.
They can send us some things. And as far as a phone number, I hate to dump a phone number on one particular organization, but
I think if all else fails, you can reach the township. So contacting Dale Ream or contacting Lorinda at DPS. I think getting hold of anybody at the actual township is good. But by all means, if they feel more comfortable, emailing us or talking to one of us, that's good as well. Additionally, I know that several of us monitor the Groves Hill Walks and Bikes Facebook page, which isn't the BPAC page, but it is a civic booster organization related to walking and biking, and so we can information from there can be filtered back to us, and we can get it into the right hands as well. Great. So we have close to 10 different objectives for the coming year. When we go off the air, or we can talk a little bit more if there's any others. But I think this is a really good list that I can set up the objectives for next year, and I plan to submit this to the township later tonight or tomorrow morning to be included within the full annual report that's coming up for next week. So is this fine as is, or would you prefer to vote on this? Or I just want to make sure everyone's comfortable with the list. Good?
I personally would like to discuss it maybe during one of our study sessions and formulate more detail to it before we vote on it.
Okay. Just the one thing is that, deadline is tomorrow for, yeah. So, if there's things that you want to talk about now, we can. I wouldn't consider this, a definitive list that, if it's not on here, we can't do it for the upcoming year. But I think this is just an idea of, some of the objectives of what we're trying to do. You're kind of putting some faith in me as far as, wordsmithing, but I'll read back to you what I do have. So maybe you feel a little more comfortable that way. Establishment of, the non-motorized plan, completion of the PAC, which is, promoting active communities, beginning a conversation on new construction, revisiting and solving the sign issue about conflicting signs and sign redundancy, interview and select commissioners, entertain the notion of a DNR trust fund grant for upcoming projects, conducting a maintenance survey and formalizing the maintenance plan, as well as continuing to communicate outreach solutions for trail safety concerns. And we'll add in there the same one that we had here before about continuing to enhance programs to get people and their pets excited about walking and biking.
Well, that should keep us busy for
there's a lot here.
this is great. Week or two.
Can't wait till we get more people on board.
Me too.
If I may ask Jane, we're into March already. Have you got anything going and actual time on Lazy Ride will start?
Yeah, in fact, I have it right here.
Thank you.
We're gonna start Lazy Ride 7 in the morning. Not 10, 7 in the morning. It'll be at the Macomb Common. May 27th is the first one. And we're gonna do it once a month until October. Fourth Saturday, it varies, depends on the schedule. But it will be in the channel.
Thank you. Great job.
Great.
You're welcome.
So, just ask, do we want to make an actual vote on this, or are you comfortable without a vote? With me, just
I'm comfortable. I think just generalizing is adequate for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Jane?
Good.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good job, Brian.
Good job to all of you. Next item on the agenda is just, for informational purposes that, we do have commission vacancies, so, we need to replace, the position that was held by Donna Deepa. And as well as, last year we did vote to add 2 additional commissioners, so we are still looking for 3 commissioners, and we have interviewed, 5 thus far, and we'll be interviewing another one tonight. But if there is anybody that is still interested in, potentially serving on this commission, please get your information in to myself as well as the folks at Township Hall and fill out the application, which is available online. Next item on the agenda is the feather flag update. Jane, I know you got it here in person. Great.
Based on your feedback and everything else, this is what we're going to use to promote our activities so they know what's going on. It could be like a feather flag. It's a nice material.
Do we want to put that on the overhead projector and folks will be able to see it? I'm not sure if GITV was able to capture it.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Can we have a shot of her?
I'm not sure if it'll come up or not. Yeah, that'll work. So for folks at home, look for that flag and you'll know that we're doing an event.
If you see the flag, participate with us.
Next item on the agenda is the Iron Bell Trail update. So, I did attend the last township board meeting, which myself, as well as Anita Twardesky and Mary Bowling of the Downriver Linked Greenways, presented on the Iron Bell Trail and the Downriver Linked Greenways gap analysis. So basically, we're talking about the section of the Downriver Linked Greenways that starts at Oakwoods Metro Park, goes through Hurock Park and Flat Rock, connects into Gibraltar Road, and comes down to the Jefferson corridor. And so it goes through Flat Rock and Rockwood and Brownstown, and then comes up along Jefferson into Trenton, and then follows Jefferson up into Riverview and Wyandotte and Ecorse and River Rouge, and connecting into the city of Detroit, which will then go through several communities, including the Mexican Town district, before coming to the Riverwalk. Once connected to the Riverwalk, you'll be able to get all the way to Belle Isle, which is the beginning or end point of the hiking route, depending on where you're starting from. So the township board, received it pretty well. They're excited about it. They're asked about, grant possibilities. And so I didn't hear any specific concerns or any reasons to not continue forward. So that went well. A couple days later, met in SEMCOG offices with quite a few, with the Downriver Link Greenways with some COG officials, Wayne County roads, as well as a good chunk of the other downriver communities. So Wyandotte was there, River Rouge was on the phone, Flat Rock, Trenton, and so we went through some of the some of the aspects of what we're planning to do, and examined the different gaps within the system. And it seemed like, for the most part, when we're centering on the hiking portion, which means sidewalks or shared use paths, that since there's only like 1.5 miles or 2 miles worth of gaps in the entire system, and they were such small little sections, like in individual corridors, that the administrative costs of doing a joint application or funding it, through a lot of the grant sources didn't make a lot of sense. It made more sense for some of these communities to do it through their the funds that they might have, like community development block grant funds, or some of them have millages for sidewalk gap filling already, and it would be a lot cheaper and quicker for them to do it that way. But some of the larger projects, when you're doing shared use paths, so like a connection between on Groseal Parkway in Trenton or over here in Groseal, those are some that you might still need to go through for actual grant sources. I think that Wayne County Parks, who's also there, they are potentially interested in some sort of path. But the biggest hindrance in establishing the Groseal Parkway corridor is the approaches to the Free Bridge. So basically, you have guardrails on either side. If you move the guardrails out in order to put in a path or put in a wider sidewalk, you're touching the actual base of the bridge, and so that triggers some of the DNR and the Coast Guard, Army Corps of Engineers, and such. A lot of reviews. So it was thought that in the short term, again, for the joint application, didn't make a lot of sense. But if there's something that each community wants to do to try and move it forward, that they would be able to do that. So, as we continue to talk about different options and developing our non-motorized plan and working with the residents, I'd like to see, again, is getting our pathway users from Meridian to the Free Bridge on our side. Does that make a lot of sense for us? And I'm sure we're going to have a diversity of opinions, but hopefully a majority will say that this is something that we should be moving forward with. Whether what the actual treatment is, don't know yet, but let's try and figure out do we have a common goal first before coming into the solutions. So that's all I have to update you on the Iron Belt Trail right now. As more things become available, I can let you know via email as well as in these meetings.
Brian, if I may say, Groseal is chosen as one of the communities that is on the Iron Belt Trail, correct?
Correct.
And that's why we want to try and be forward with this and hopefully.
Correct. So the Iron Belt Trail being on it, and being it opens up the door for more competitive funding. So this is anecdotally, but what we do here is that if you can say that you're on the Iron Belt Trail or you're connecting to the Iron Belt Trail, you're a spur from it, you have a leg up on some of the other applications within the queue. And I think that since we're already connecting into an existing system, along Meridian, along Grove, along Horse Mill and South Point, and connecting to the Wildlife Refuge, Gibraltar Bay Unit, which is something that the township has talked about as well. I think those are a lot of net positives that could help out an application. I think the biggest hindrance would be, how do we come up with a 20% match for some of these funds?
All positive.
Brian, I do have a question for you. One of the citizens asked me a question. I couldn't answer it. Maybe you can. And it made a lot of sense to me because I really never thought about it. But the Iron Belt Path does go to Belle Isle, and they have a bridge just like we have a bridge. Mm-hmm. Are they making any special arrangements to cross that bridge, or is it already designed for pedestrian use? Or what's the difference between that bridge and our bridge?
That bridge, they have a very large sidewalk on it already on both sides, and they have bike lanes.
I see.
And so there's a lot of real estate over there, so that the connection is good. The trouble with ours is that just Groseal Parkway in general doesn't have a lot of right of way in that situation, and I don't know the history of the Belle Isle Bridge, which I believe is named MacArthur, but our Free Bridge was basically retrofitted from an old railroad bridge, so the thought of providing pedestrian facilities, I think when it was originally designed as a railroad bridge, was completely an afterthought. So we have some handicaps on that side, but it's not something that can't be remedied in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Next item is the bicycle and pedestrian plan. I've shared with you before that we do have a draft website that includes a lot of the information. I provided the link to you in this agenda. Encourage you, like between now and the next meeting, to kind of take a look at that and get a feel for, is this something that you like? Is it, what ways can we improve upon it? Is there certain things that we need to get rid of? But I was hoping that by having a website, it could be more of a living document, and then we can, export out the highlighted, like a Cliff Notes version of what's on there, in order to create, PDF or paper copies of the plan for those that don't want to access it via online.
Yeah, you can leave it out like in the township hall.
Mm-hmm.
But especially for people who don't have internet or a computer. And if you can leave like a little packet of go to your bike path in more detail.
Yeah. And so my thought is, again, a lot of users do gravitate towards online, and it saves on publication costs, but it's only one way of communicating to folks, and I'd like to do a multi-tier approach to getting the word out and making sure that everybody has access to it. Next item we have is stakeholder liaisons. So that's talking about basically if commissioners here are going to be able to be a part, keep an eye on the different commissions on Groseal, or some of the other stakeholders that are involved potentially with bicycle and pedestrian travel. So the Rotary Club, or some of the churches. Again, we're looking for volunteers. So if there's certain ones that you already have your mind set on, that, hey, I'd really like to do that, let us know and we can solidify that. And that way, in case Alan and Bob are fighting over the same one, we'll know whoever comes first gets it.
Can you clarify that? I'm kind of lost on what you're talking about.
It just, we've talked about before, making sure BPAC is not planning things in isolation. So, but, working with open space, working with the Planning Commission, working with Recreation and, the police department and the downtown, but, also some of the other, organizations on the island. So Rotary Club does things, the Kiwanis Club does things, there's Tour de Ile, Jane, I know that, there's folks here that are, working with the churches on, a ride for specific causes, like the ride for the unborn. So just making sure that, one, we can keep abreast of what other organizations are doing, but also, bring that information back to our commission so we can react to it and figure out, is it something that we need to be involved in, or is it just something that, hey, it might change what we're specifically doing over here because it's a redundant thing, and if that other commission or committee is actually doing it, it's one less thing we have to do over here. So it's just for good planning purposes.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Brian, if I may, and also let the community, the organizations, the churches, whatever they get going, don't hesitate to come and talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything we can do to advise or help, If we got the manpower, I'm sure we'd be more than willing to.
Second to last item on the agenda here is the Township Liaisons Report. Since Tom is not here, we're going to go over that. I'm going to go right into the Chairperson's Report. One thing that did come up within the last week is that we have some folks that went to school here on Groseal. I believe it's the class of 62, that they're looking to provide something for the paths. So they thought personally about a bench at first, and they're looking for some guidance on that. So I gave them just a very quick summary of it. Yeah, benches are available. One of the things that we're looking to do with that is make sure that that's a consistent type of bench, so that way it meets the build quality, so that way it lasts a long time, as well as the potential for the concrete pad, so that way our maintenance folks don't have to move the bench around, and we know that it stays in one spot. But I did also bring up about bike racks, which Aaron, I know that was one of your ideas for moving forward, and she did like that. I also quickly mentioned about bike repair stations, because that's something that we've been talking about. So if we can't do it tonight, in the next couple of days, if you mind, sending me some of the stuff that you like, and maybe we can just brainstorm about different options that we can relay back to this woman.
I think that's great. My personal feelings on this is that I would love to see a maintenance station put in, maybe in front of the police station or somewhere where they can stop and get a drink and make repairs. There's good lighting there, so that seems to be a good place. But that's my opinion. I would just love to see a maintenance station.
I agree with Alan on that. A maintenance station would be great. Benches, I think they're great, but I'm not on the bike path to sit on a bench, but I'm happy for the pedestrians that use them, and we have quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for a dog to, while you sit and catch your breath.
Yeah. You're suggesting that you're not walking the dog, but the dog's walking you? You have to stay and catch your breath?
Marlin pause, man. But
Brian, another one, and this isn't very glamorous, and I don't know who would maintain it, but I feel like some paths you see, like, I don't even know what you call them, basically doggy trash cans. There's a bag in case you forgot to bring it, clean up after your dog, and then a place to throw it away. Again, not very glamorous, but might be a nice addition.
No, I think that's very good idea. In front of Cahill Veterinary Center, when you get out before you go in the building, they have one of those right by the sidewalk, and I see everybody using it, and I thought, what a great idea, and we could definitely use them.
But you already have trash can. But you want to make it specifically like the one at the dog park?
It doesn't have to be specific, but I mean, maybe if people forget bags, or if they don't forget bags,
okay.
but they see it and
Extra
feel
bags.
guilty,
Okay.
it might make them want to clean up after their pets.
You know what? I remember I did mention to Julie Court at the ACO, and I told her that we need to have bags on the path. She said, yeah, if we can get somebody to do it. I thought, I'll do it on my session, so we could work with Julie for that.
Great ideas, and I'll bring them back to them. But it might be something that we also think about when we establish some trailheads along the pathway. So the Macomb Commons is a nice area. We could add several of these different types of amenities in that spot with some signage to let you know what paths are here on the island. How does this connect to the rest of the downriver and part of the region and where you are within the Iron Bell Trail.
Another potential donation, Alan mentioned about it before, that flyers, that'd be good. They can put advertising.
Yeah, we'll have to get some cost estimates to figure out how big of a ticket that is. I'm guessing that if it is high, I'm sure there's some great people with big hearts and big wallets, but it might be something that we need to look at for some of the grants as well.
Maybe I do some research like I did for the bikes. It's the minimum 25 bikes. Drop it. Maybe I can do some research on advertising thing, and I will share it with you.
Okay, great. So that concludes my report. Is there anything else that we'd like to talk about before we go off the air here? Hearing none, I'd like to have someone make a motion for adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
5-0. Everyone walk, bike, and drive safe.